John Adams' Letters from the Front podcast for October 1917. This podcast looks at life in World War I through the letters of John Adams, who was 23 when he joined up in September 1914. He served with the 9th Service Battalion, Royal Irish Fusiliers, and was involved in many significant events on the Western Front, particularly Passchendaele. These are his words, read by his grandchildren and narrated by his great-grandchildren. This month we don't have any actual letters from John, but we do have several field postcards indicating one of several things, and we've talked about this before, that he may have been too busy to write home, he may have been up at the front a bit more than he thought he would, or that we may have lost the letters that he did send home. But what we do have in our archive is a letter from my father in the 80s to a researcher who was researching World War I. And my father, who is also called John Adams, it gets a bit confusing, especially since my brother's called John Adams as well. But he writes in this letter about not hearing much from his father, the John Adams of these letters, about World War I. And it was only at Christmas when he met up with his brother-in-law, who was in the North Irish Horse, where he heard stories about what happened. This month in the history section, we do look at the North Irish Horse and the time where they amalgamated with the 9th Service Battalion of the Royal Irish Fusiliers. My name's Mark Adams, and John Adams was my grandfather.
During 1987, John Adams' son wrote a letter to a researcher in World War I telling how his father spoke little of his experiences during the war. The only time he had heard anything was at Christmas, when John Adams would meet up with his brother-in-law, Johnny Reid, who had served with the North Irish Horse. When that regiment lost their horses, they were transferred to the 9th Royal Irish Fusiliers. The two men would reminisce and could remember occasions on which they had met, right down to the day, date and weather condition, truly brothers in arms. During the autumn of 1917, the 36th Ulster Division gained some much-needed reinforcements, the first major replacement since May of that year. The 9th Royal Irish Fusiliers gained an amalgamation from the 2nd North Irish Horse. The North Irish Horse and South Irish Horse were special reserve regiments of cavalry raised for the South African War as companies of the 17th Battalion Imperial Yeomanry in 1902. When the First World War began, the North Irish Horse were the first non-regular troops to land in France and be in action. Squadrons served as divisional cavalry across the Western Front until May 1916. 2nd North Irish Horse was formed on the 2nd of October 1914 from volunteers of the Enniskilling Horse of the Ulster Volunteer Force and landed in France with the Ulster Division in October 1915. As the war progressed into trench warfare, the mobility of the cavalry was restricted and led to many cavalry regiments being dismounted and deployed on a range of other duties around divisions. In mid-July 1917, the 2nd North Irish Horse was informed that it was to be dismantled and the men trained for the infantry. It was a compulsory transfer. The horses were inspected by veterinary officers, and most of the horses, 265, were transported to Egypt for the Australian Light Horse, while the remaining served as transport. The men of the North Irish Horse were moved by train to join the 9th Royal Irish Fusiliers. The regiment was then retitled as 9th North Irish Horse Battalion Princess Victoria's Royal Irish Fusiliers. A total of 569 men of the North Irish Horse joined the 9th RIF. During September and October 1917, the 9th RIF not only spent time in the line, but also behind the line. These times were spent training, providing work parties and in sport. Sport was used as a distraction to give the men something approaching normal to look forward to. Football was the preferred option, which the 9th Royal Irish Fusiliers seemed to excel at. On October 24th, the 9th RIF moved back to the line.
Monday, 8th October 1917. Field postcard.
I am quite well. Letter follows at first opportunity.
Tuesday, 16th October 1917. Field postcard.
I am quite well. Letter follows at first opportunity.
Thursday, 18th October 1917. Field postcard.
I am quite well. Letter follows at first opportunity.
Friday, 26th October 1917. Field postcard.
I am quite well. Letter follows at first opportunity.
Thank you for listening to John Adams' Letters from the Front podcast. To find out more about John Adams and his family, visit www.johnadams.org.uk/letters. The history of the 9th Service Battalion, Royal Irish Fusiliers, during World War I is taken from Blackers Boys. Visit them at www.9thirishfusiliers.co.uk with the number 9. Podcasts will be published 100 years after the letters were written, so will be published nearly every month. If you would like to contact us with comments or reactions, the email address is letters@johnadams.org.uk. This has been a Mark Mess production.